I'm Roxanne. I work for Bupa. I've worked for Bupa for 5 years now, 6 years, sorry. I've been working in sort of the IT, security, delivery side of IT for most of my career. And I'm now sort of moving into more of a specialised area within identity. And at Bupa, it's a very complex thing. So this is what I want to explain to you first off. And then I'll explain how Cocho helped us to make our identity slightly more usable and make collaboration possible. Who we are. So we're an international health company. We're headquartered in the UK. And we're 75 years young and still trying to stay young as a company and to innovate. We've got massive new IT strategy that's just come out. We're really trying to become a digital innovator. And you know, we have many, many, many customers, 38 million. And that, of course, has many, many problems that comes with it. That comes up. We're not just a health insurance company. We also have hospitals, we have clinics, we've got dental, we've got, you know, just people who sit in other people's offices and act as GPs and nurses. We also look after aged care, predominantly in the UK, in Spain and in Australia. But that is a really big business for us as well. We're a big company, 85,000 employees worldwide, and we're made up of different market units. Through acquisition, through growth, we have our group functions. As I've said, we're headquartered out of the UK. Our Bupa Global and UK market, so of course also headquartered out of the UK, but Bupa Global is a global company providing healthcare concierge out of many different countries. We then have our APAC, so looking predominantly at Hong Kong, Australia and New Zealand. And Europe and Latin America. Europe and Latin America are headquartered out of Spain in our Sanitas business, but they span Turkey, Poland, a lot of South America, and they also have headquarters in Miami. We also have 3 associate businesses, Bupa Arabia, Niva Bupa and Geo Blue in America. Excellent businesses who work very closely with us. Some of them are more integrated than others, Bupa Arabia being one of the sort of really close partners that we work with. Right, so I've told you the landscape. Now try and collaborate in that landscape, especially when we've got all of these different businesses, and I'm telling you, they all have different IT organizations. We have 5 CIOs at Bupa. With those come 5 different CISOs. All of those different organizations within them have separate IT operations, and we also have separate Microsoft tenants within those. So obviously trying to collaborate is nigh on impossible. We also have a very highly regulated industry with insurance and provision of healthcare. 35 million customers and 85,000 employees makes it very difficult to keep track of everything. 14 independent technology teams on separate Microsoft tenants worldwide. And we need to make sure that highly personal information, you know, financial, architectural, you know, not just PII. There's other really, really important information that we're trying to keep safe. So the way forward. During COVID, it became very clear that we all needed to be able to communicate very easily, fluently, all over the world. we'd already started to implement Teams. It became more and more required during the lockdowns to make sure that we could collaborate. But how do you collaborate across Microsoft tenants and across into different Teams environments? And yeah, of course, you could just open up the gates, let everybody, communicate with each other, join teams from different areas. But we needed to make sure that the people that we were collaborating with, in their separate IT organisations, were safe and had set up their IT organisations and their controls in a secure way so that the data from the UK business could be trusted in the Australian business. So we worked with Cocho. They gave us the security posture assessment, which essentially started out with a proof of concept for our UK organisation. They went through and took a set of data and built out a lovely platform dashboard for us to really look at where the holes were. But not just that, they had to personalise it to Bupa because, as you've seen, the landscape is a bit crazy and we've got a lot of regulatory requirements. And we have our own internal standards as well that we needed to make sure were picked up by these SPAs. So we worked with the security architects from Cocho to modify their standard SPA, and that brought us this lovely dashboard that was very exciting and finally gave us a view of what we were working with. Now there's an awful lot more screens, but I'm only showing one of them here. But this helped us to really look under the covers, understand what needed to be fixed. And unfortunately for Cocho, it took them a long 9 months to go around the world and do these assessments everywhere else for Bupa. During those 9 months, they also helped us with the remediation of those findings. So I'm going to show you some graphs here. Obviously, I've hidden the countries involved just for modesty. But this kind of shows you the state that our environments were in. There's a lot of red on those screens. And it did, present a bit of a challenge when you think about trying to open up barriers to collaboration. This is the after picture. I think it's quite impressive. I think the difference is, you can see all that green up there. It's fantastic. And we did all this through tweaking controls, improving licenses, lots more scanning, lots more logging, and really working with those IT teams, those security teams to improve how they were looking at their environments. So this is a bit of a timeline. This kind of will bring you into my little baby, which is global digital identity. That is my product. I own it at Bupa, and it's one of the sort of real wins that we've managed to build off the back of these SPAs. So as you can see, the POC started in 2020 after the real big lockdowns. We realised, this is a real thing we need. That nice long 9-month period to help us to build the rest of the global reports and also that remediation period. So that allowed us to assess the security strength and also understand each business specifically. This isn't working. There we go. So then we really started to identify which divisions needed the most help. So I work in group functions. So we don't actually have our own IT infrastructure. We use the UK infrastructure. But we can support the market units as required with their transformations. And then it comes to the global digital identity. I'll talk a little bit more about that. So one thing that we were able to do across Bupa in the last well, no, it's not even that, it's probably a year and a half, is build a separate, and then you're going to laugh because we built another Microsoft tenant that effectively allows us to collaborate globally. So beforehand, we had no way of buying a SaaS application and letting all of our employees authenticate against that application. You know, some SaaS applications allow more than one identity provider, but not many. So through the years, we've had to patch together monstrous solutions that don't really work. So what we built was a separate Microsoft tenant where all of the Bupa employees are actually guests. And Cocho helped us build that. They built a Microsoft Identity Manager platform. We receive feeds from our HR systems into the MIM, and that then creates a guest account for every single employee at Bupa, 85,000 people. We've also created a separate platform for our frontline workers, unwired, which is what we used to call them. We like to call them members now. So these people who work in care homes, work in hospitals, they don't have email, you know, they don't use emails. Why would they use it? So they don't have an identity. And we've been struggling for years with them having to remember passwords. They've got a different password and login ID for every single system. The amount of calls we're getting to reset passwords is insane. You know, we're talking just one platform, it's 15,000 a week to reset passwords. And that's just one system. So we created essentially a registration portal with Cocho again, off the back of their Access Center product. And again, that feeds into the MIM and creates an identity for them in this brand new tenant. And with that, we've been able to introduce our first ever truly global application at Bupa. It's probably this time last year it went live with an MVP, and it's now live throughout the whole of Bupa and doing fantastically well. So just a little look at what we've been through and what we're doing with Cocho. So over the years, we've actually set up quite a few different projects with them, worked really closely with them, as I mentioned, on the SPAs. They also helped us with our pre-day one onboarding. This was a project that was done quite a few years ago. Again, using Access Center, this time for people who aren't Bupa employees yet, but we needed to give them a way to log on and fill in documents or provide documents to us. So this gave them a temporary identity. And then obviously it helps with us being able to transition them into being a full employee. The next thing we did with them a few years ago was integrate our Workday HR system with our existing UK Active Directory. And this has it's improved our JML no end, and it actually lets us do some more role-based access because we can be sure of the people and their attributes inside of our Azure identity. And then my baby, the global digital identity, which Cocho has had, you know, such an immense part of. And they continue to. This is a product that we're continually evolving. It's iterative. We started with our MVP this time last year. It's now sort of into, it's growing into such a great platform. We've onboarded, I think, 15 SaaS applications now that are accessible globally. And we've got more and more applications coming on board all the time. And that's it from me.